That's good. Let's get restream going for the chat. That's good. Let's tell that. Cool. Do quick. Quick little push on social media. Go. If you guys are in the chat, just give me a quick hey so I know you're here. A couple minutes early, so wait a little bit before we get going. I see 3 people showing up. Cool. Right. Let's see. What's up, Steven? And nickname. Someone's just got a nickname. Send that out. So we'll get started in just a minute. I'm going to go over just some material stuff because it's been a while since I've really done any kind of dive into materials. I've been showing off a lot of like new stuff that's come out with post effects. And then before that, it was just like, welcome back, season 2, and Billy was on. Mike is a bit quiet. Cool. Thank you for letting me know. I will turn that up. How's that? Better? Hopefully that's better. That looks like it's up all the way. Serge, what's up? Hopefully that's helping. If not, I'll move the mic closer. Trying to keep it off camera as much as possible. Cool. I really think I might need a new preamp for my mic because I just switched XLR cables because it was super noisy. And now I'm having this issue with it still being really quiet, even though it's like almost cranked up all the way. So either I need a new preamp or my mic is starting to die or something. I don't know. So we'll figure it out. Thanks. I'm glad it's better. So almost 9 o'clock, but yeah, I haven't done anything really like quote unquote advanced recently. So I'm going to just take a look at materials tonight and how to like layer them up and get a little bit more advanced and talk about like the differences between a material blender and the color layer and why you want to use certain things where. I just did a fresh restart, so hopefully there's no crashes tonight. But I was noticing earlier before the restart that it was a little bit chuggy, which is weird. I don't know if it's like a new build type thing, but I'm going to try an R20. If it doesn't work and starts to get buggy and chugging along, I'll switch into R19. Let me close this too. And I don't need that open. I'm not syncing anything. Nothing's on Pixel Plow. It's OBS. Cool. All right, guys. So it's 9 o'clock. I may as well just start getting into this. If you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to throw them out in the chat and I will pause and answer. Or if it's like completely off topic, then I'll answer that later on, like halfway through the stream. Usually for the first half, I just like go through something of a topic, and then the second half I'll do Q&A. But if I do something and you have a question about it, just let me know and I will pause. So, all right. So what I've got set up here is this shader ball from Rich Nosworthy. You can find it for free. If you just do a quick little Google search for Redshift shader ball, Rich Nosworthy, it should pop up. It's free and he gives it away. I think he gives away like 4 or 5 materials with it. Plus he's got other materials out there, so go support him. He's doing a great job. Plus, if you want to pay for some lessons, he's got a course on Hello Lux as well, which is really great from what I hear. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. I've just got some copper on here, and that's what I've got labeled here as base. So nothing fancy, you just create a material. I went into the drop down, bring this up here, and just shows copper preset. The only thing that I changed is for nail type to metalness. Normally it's color and edge. I've just been trying to get into the metalness workflow a little bit more, so I changed that and adjusted that a little bit, but that's pretty much it. So if we go into the shader graph, you'll see I started messing around with some things. Let me clear these out and I can start talking to you about them. Connect that back up. So a lot of people have confusion about building more advanced materials, and that's because coming from C4D background, you usually stack materials up until R20, when now they have the node editor, which is awesome. And then like Octane 2, you use like mixed materials and things like that, and you have to have multiple materials up until now Octane 4. With the Uber shader, it's a little bit better. But with Redshift and like Arnold and stuff, you can do everything all within this shader graph here, and it makes it really easy to make complex materials. So we've got this copper here, and the first thing you want to look for is, it's not called mix, but it's called blend. And you'll see right here we have a few different blenders. There's material blender, bump blender, and displacement. Right now we're just going to talk about material. We're going to keep it a little bit advanced, but not so advanced of like bumps and displacements yet. If you guys have questions about those, just throw them into the chat and I'll answer questions on that as well. But what we want to start with is just put our copper into this material blender, and you'll see base material here, hook that up, put that into the surface, and it does the exact same thing. Now in here, we get like a really simplified like Photoshop, and you'll see this blend color right in here. And if you do black, it's 0 and all the way up to 100%, and you'll start to blend your layers together and your materials together. And then you can also have them additive, so they kind of add to each other as well instead of fading between each other. So I'm going to copy this, just control, click and drag, and pipe this into layer 1 here. You'll see nothing really happens, and even if it did, it wouldn't matter because this is the exact same material. So why don't we change this up a little bit, and maybe we'll make this one like really rough. And to see what we're doing, I'm going to pipe this right into there too. So you'll see it gets pretty rough there, and maybe we'll make this like a little bit more green too. Probably roughness doesn't need to be so high. And we'll come back to this. All right, so first we'll start messing with the blend so you guys can see what's happening there. If I go to about 50%, you'll see it starts to blend into the other direction. If I do additive, you'll see it starts to add it into there. So as I go up to 100, this base copper isn't fully gone. It's being added together with this secondary greenish one. And then if I turn this off, you'll see this one just takes over. So that's really the basics to getting started with this. Now, you can do some more complex things. The easiest, more complex thing to do is just throw a noise in there. So you can just use a general Redshift noise, bring that in here and connect it like this. Oh, see, I can't wait for them to update the shader graph eventually. Hopefully in R21, they'll open up the graph to other people. So what I'm going to do is hook that up, and so we can start taking a look at our noise. And so I've got a fractal noise in here. I'm going to go ahead, bring this down, maybe make it a little bit more complex. And for our scaling, I'm going to do like 4, so we get some really nice noise in there, maybe even 8. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And so what's going to happen is all these black areas in here are going to be the base material, and all the white areas are going to be this new kind of really rough green material. So as I hook this up here, you'll see everywhere that's black has that original material in there, and everywhere that it's white, this new material is coming through. And then if I do additive, you can see they add together too. So really simple way to start building up some like grungy materials and rough materials, and you can make it even more complex than that too. So let's say you just wanted some roughness around the edges here. So there's a curvature node, and if you're from Octane, it's the same as like a dirt. So what this is going to do is find all the curves in geometry and start to build off those. So the best way to see this is I'm going to hook it right up to the surface here, and since we're in close, you can definitely see what's going on, and this radius makes it spill out, and then we can go in really close, and probably something like, yeah, like, oh, you've been using Blender this week. I thought you meant like the Blender material. I haven't used Blender at all. Like I've used it for a couple times to convert some meshes and things like that, but it looks really interesting, especially the newest build coming out. And yeah, pretty much every other 3D application has a better node graph. I mess around with Houdini sometimes, and that is just like top notch. So I'm hoping we'll get an update here soon. So going back to the curve editor, so you can see right in here, it starts following the curves. This is convex. You can also do concave right there and mess with it however you want. I think I'm liking that, since we get like some soft bleeding over in here and there. So why don't we go ahead and put that as our blend color and hook this back up. And so you'll see in these areas, and why don't I go ahead and see if I don't have enough samples yet. Let's do 16 and 256. What's up, Don? So as this cleans up, you can see that only the roughness is coming through in here from this second material there. So if you want to get really complex, this is where you can start using the other kind of blender, and that's actually called a color layer. And it's not really a blender, but it's more of like a real mini Photoshop in here. So this is like Photoshop light, like super light. And this is like actually kind of mini Photoshop. And you'll see we have all these different blend modes in here. So what I'm going to do is have this curvature be our base, kind of like how we had this up here as our base, and plug this back in. And you'll see nothing happens. But then I want to have the noise affect it a little bit. Oh, let me turn that back on and disable that. There we go. So you'll see nothing really happens. It's all the same. And then I'll bring this in and have this as our layer color right here. And then this is where we can start to have some fun. So if I enable this and do normal, it completely replaces the base layer. But if I do something like subtract, you'll see everywhere in here in the curvature map starts to get noisy right in there. And then you can play with the mask a little bit. So if you want to bring that back a little, you'll see that more of this comes back in, but it's still noisy right in there. So it definitely starts to give you almost like a substance designer ability, but right inside of this. And I'm not saying this is going to replace Substance Designer. If you guys are using that, definitely use that. You're going to get a lot further in there, and there's a lot more complex things you can do. But this just shows you that you don't necessarily have to leave Redshift to get really far and start building some complex stuff too. So we've got that. We've got our mask in here. Color layer is greater than color composite. Kind of depends on what you want to do. So they're kind of like one and the same a little bit. This just has two in here. So you can see there's the base color and the blend color. And then you can have all these. There's like a little bit more options. So like stencil and matte and mask. While in here, you don't get like matte and mask. But you can control things a little bit more with how many layers you get. So you get up to 7 in this right in here. And then you can even control the mask with something like a texture or noise or curvature. So let's say you wanted to have a noise on the mask just to give that even more randomness, you can totally do that. So you can see in here now we're getting some masked areas that are stronger and softer. And if I come back in and let's say I bring this down to 2, it will give us our noise a little bit bigger. You'll see it softens it up a little bit more. So it's all about what you want to do. Color composite is really good for like mixing 2 textures together and turning them into one new texture. Color layer is if you want to do a bunch of them lined up or like a little bit more complex. I've even seen people do like, say, a grunge map and maybe smudges together in a color composite and then hook it up to one of these inputs in here. So say like color layer 1, if it will let me do it, there we go. And then you can start building some really complex stuff that way too and layering up even more. So it's really your call. The only thing that I really like about color layer is just how much more control you have. Maybe not so much in like your alpha source or your composite mode, just because you're not getting some of these masks and stencil and matte stuff, but you almost have all of it, and it just seems like you can really dive in a lot deeper. There's also advanced overlay options up here too. So if you're using alphas, you can say like, oh, this has pre-multiplied alpha versus a straight alpha, and you can't really do that in here, I don't think. Yeah, we just have like blend the alpha or use the base alpha or composite the alphas together, but you can't choose if it's straight or multiplied or pre-multiplied, excuse me. So there's like some little things in there too. Hey Nico, I don't know what you're saying, but what's up, man? So where was I going with this? So can do our noise back into, oh, it disappeared because I haven't updated Redshift in R20 yet to stop doing that. There we go. So that's kind of just using what's available inside of Redshift. So I was talking about textures just a moment ago, and you can use this with textures. So why don't I take this out of here and we'll get a texture. I'll go find something. Trying to think of what would be best. Come on. Sorry, this is a network drive. It's taken a little bit, being slow. Maybe. No. Go back. We'll do polygon this time. Maybe. And how about we'll do like this wiping residue, 6K. There you go. No, we don't need to copy that. So you can do the same thing with textures. Just bring this in here, and everywhere this map is that we just brought in, you'll start to see this matte material coming through. And you could use this as like a roughness too, like if you just wanted to have some fingerprints on something. But doing this allows you to build up really complex layers too. And now you can download stuff from Polygon and mix them together. And if I wanted to get like a gradient, or sorry, a ramp, bring this in here, and you can start to control this a little bit more. And let me make sure this is linear. And we'll set this to Alt. So you'll see now we can start to give ourselves some more contrast. And maybe I'll bring this back a little bit. Really bring out those scratches. What's up, Nura? I think it's Nura. There's a bunch of names that show up in that. Nura, Paratodos, Iru, and Tierra Plana. So you can add some more contrast in here, or even add some noise in if you want. You'll see it starts to add noise into that, and maybe we'll just do a little less frequency. So again, it doesn't take very much to doctor your materials and really make them your own and make them feel more advanced. And then why don't I just go ahead and go into this setup here so you can see what's happening all over. Hey, thanks. What time is it in Argentina? It's probably 3. Is it 3 hours behind? That's my guess. It's probably what, 6 o'clock there, 7 o'clock, something like that. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, this is all I was really going to show you tonight, was just like how to start using these blending materials and the color layer. I can show you the composite too, since that was asked as well. So why don't I get another texture? 22 p.m. So 10? No. Yeah. That's crazy. How are you? You're an hour ahead? I was not expecting that. I was expecting you to be behind. So let's say we want some fingerprints and those scratches. We'll do this here. And why don't we try this one? So the composite will show you the difference between those two. And I'm going to hook that up to here. And you'll see we get this base color right in there. That should come through, maybe because I don't have secondary. Is it going to force me to use? Interesting. All right, I'll hook up the blend to see if it's going to force me to do that. Okay, I guess you have to have a texture or color or something in the blend color as well, which that's a little bit weird. So what you can do is start doing what we did before. So you can do blend color, which will then pull in just the blend color. You can average the two, so you can see there's a little bit of those scratches coming through in there. And if I bring in this ramp right there, you'll see it adjusts for that. And maybe just add the two together. So it's going to be super white because these fingerprints are really white. Yeah, I have the shortcut set up in R19, but I'm using R20 right now, and I haven't set it up yet. But I used to have it set up as Control tilde, and I just haven't moved everything over to R20 yet, but I'll get there. But yeah, I used to have it so I could just select any of the nodes and it would snap. And then subtract, you can see there, and you can just kind of go through all of them if you want, kill some time, but there's nothing too drastically different between using the color composite and using the layer. The only thing is just going to be like these last couple ones with like mask. And you can see that's the same. Stencil, black set out, matte, goes the inverse. Let me just go back into, let's do subtract. That's too dark. Difference. There we go. So there's difference. You can see the fingerprints in there and the smudges. And then if we do blend alpha, I don't know if it's going to do anything because there's not really an alpha in there to blend, but that's really the only difference in the color composite, is just what you can do with them. And then if I bring in the layer again and set it up the same way, we'll make this our base, and layer 1. So when I have this set on difference and difference in here, you'll see now it's the exact same. So I don't really know why you would use color composite, except for like those matte things. And then, like I said earlier, if I get a noise again, you can start using the mask and have even more control. So if I go like this, and we do turbulence 4, now you can see we're getting the mask in there, plus our smudges, plus our scratches, and it's getting super overlaid and complex and just really builds everything up. And I can switch this back into here, maybe. There we go. And this back into there. And you'll see now we've got a lot going on, and this is just 2 materials, so you can start doing this more and more. I think maybe this time last year, or even really early this year, Chad did a tutorial very similar to this, just showing up how to build like a grunge metal from base up. So starting with like your base material, and then putting some paint on top, and then putting scratches on top of that. So if you want to take this even further, I totally recommend that from Grayscale Gorilla and Chad Ashley. But this is how you would start to build up something like that. So let's say we have that copper, and then we want to put paint over top, which can just be plastic, and we'll say red like that, and make that additive. So you get some of that copper coming through. You can really see in these highlights that copper still coming through. Then it falls off, starts to blend a little bit. But let's say from there you want some, I don't know, smudges. Copy this, and we can just do, what's the best way to do smudges? We'll probably just do this. So put that over top here, go into our second layer, turn that off for a second. And our blend, we're going to use a texture, and I'll go get smudges since I have a smudges texture. We'll do this. Nope. Linear and color layer 2. This will be our blend color. And if I bring up the roughness a little bit, turn this back on, should start to see some of those come through. Might have to get a ramp and crank it a little bit more for the blend. 0.1 for a diffuse on there. There we go. So a real little bit of diffuse. What's up, Lance? How's it going? So now you can see those smudges coming through. I think I want to get a ramp. And just give it a little bit more contrast. That, and Alt, and push these together a little bit more. There we go. Now it's really starting to come through. So obviously that's really heavy just for demonstration purposes. You would probably want it a little bit lighter. Start to lighten that up a little bit. But then if you want your smudges to be a little bit imperfect, then you can start to add some noise in there, maybe a little less frequent. So now you'll see it'll get broken up a little bit. I think I want to bring this back up. Right in there. So you can see in here, you can get some like really nice detail, but then it's getting broken up by this noise that I just turned on. So let's do this again, but maybe with some scratches in the paint. So I'm going to go ahead and get some scratches again, and we'll have that cut out of our plastic paint lining. Scuffs, heavy scuffs. Let's do that. Actually, I'm just going to do 3K because we don't really need 6K at the moment for the stream. So layer 1, blend material. We'll do that. Bring this back up here and drag that in between the two. So now you can see we have a lot of copper coming through and just a little bit of paint left, which is not really the look I was going for. And I don't think I really want the noise in there right now. See if I bring this up, if that helps. Nope. We'll go this way. There we go. So just like some splatterings of paint, and then we've got our fingerprints in there. It's still kind of the opposite of what I want. So I am just going to go ahead and invert this. There we go. And very quickly have those scratches come or take our paint off in here, and then we'll see more of the copper coming through. And maybe crank this up a little bit. It's probably taking way too much. Go this way, that way a little. So you can see some scratch happening right in there, and then over top of that, we've got our fingerprints and starting to get a little bit complex in there. Maybe even we could have like our curvature come in that we were doing before. So let's go ahead and bring in our curvature, and then we'll use our layer right there. So this will be our base. Actually, yeah, this will be our base. That's fine. And then we'll do a layer 1 color right in there. I think I'm going to have to look at this for a second. 0.001. That's probably too far. 0.1. Yeah, that's good. I'll do concave. How about that? Still not really giving what I want. Convex. Let's average the two together. That should help. And I'm going to go back in our edges so we can see the detailing in there. So you can see on our edges, we have a lot more copper coming through. And then we still have our scratches in there as well being pulled away, plus these fingerprints on top. Might even do like a multiply, see how that affects things. Might be too much. Yeah, because that's going the other way. Let's try subtract. Ooh, I think I'm starting to like that, how subtract is working. Especially like right in here. Again, those highlights coming through. If you really want to see it get blown out, we'll go to like 0.1. Have those edges eaten away. And because we have the mask now, instead of doing the composite and using the color layer, I can throw a noise in our mask. And why don't we do like a cellular noise and try 8. So this will give like a chip effect, since cellular noise is kind of like these triangular like almost Voronoi fracture type chips. So you can see in here we're getting little chunks of chips in there. All these imperfections. So I think I'm starting to like how that's looking. Why don't we do like, that's the base for the back. There we go. Do a pullback really quickly. See how that looks. What do I, 256, that's probably way overkill. Let's do 64. That way I can speed up the IPR a little bit. So it's kind of like Iron Man-esque a little bit. Iron Man red and gold, even though it's copper. But not too many steps. This looks really dirty and complex at the moment just because I started throwing stuff together. But if I move this around, the top flat rim, well, the best way to go about it would be with a UV map, but you can do it. Let me think of the best way to tackle this, because I don't think this is UV mapped, right? No. This even has a subdivision surface on there, which it really shouldn't. That should help. Even speed things up a little bit. I guess there's a UV map for this cap up here. So the way this is built, it's not a single object. And I didn't build this, Lance. This is from Rich Nosworthy. But let's go ahead and take a look at that too, because I should still be able to move it around. So let me get a texture and get another material. This will be layer 3. I might actually do this first just so I can get it in the right spot. Do diffuse. And I need a picture. So we'll do my kids. How about that? So just get these all set, and we don't want to wrap. And I can turn off bucket. Yeah, you can totally do that, and that's kind of the workaround, especially if you're coming from Octane, where it has a transform node. But yeah, you can do a constant and then use this, put what, integer, and you can start using this to plug into your textures. So if you have multiple textures and you want them all to scale at a certain point, you go in here and have that set to scale. I guess two episodes ago when Billy was on, he went over this too, about how to set it up. And if you want to know how to do like some nice rotations and like random rotations and stuff, go back and watch the stream from not 2 weeks ago, but I guess 4 No, let's see, 4 weeks ago. Yeah. 2 episodes ago. So yeah, that would be 4 weeks. And yeah, Billy goes over it, I think, with like in the first 5 minutes of the stream too. So anyway, let's try and do this. So that's not updating properly in there. There's something I don't think a lot of people know about, but if you come in here into this drop down for output, you can do viewport, and it should update the same. No, it's going to be weird. Okay, that's all right. We can just use what we've got here. So the way that I usually do this is I will go into this UV texture mode here and start scaling stuff around. So click on this and should move it around. Come on. It's been a while since I've done this. I even have a tutorial on it. We'll do flat. There we go. That's what I forgot to do. And I need to scale it down like so. And you'll see it's tiling in here, but it's not actually tiling. So you have to play with it and look at your viewport or your render view at the same time. This is getting funky looking. Getting all stretched out. Scale it down. Rotate it a little bit. So uh-oh, you locking up? What are you doing? What are you doing, Redshift? Did I just freak it out? All right, I might have to restart cinema. Oh, there it goes. It caught up. Okay, there we go. So we've got our texture in place right there. And so because it's on layer 3, it should be on the top. So what I'm going to do is just come in here and make that white. You'll see that happens. But if I do additive, you can do that there. But a little trick is if you want the alpha out of here, you can do a split. So with the color splitter, and you'll see we get RGBA, so A for alpha, and for layer 3, we just want this as our blend color. And we don't want it additive, we just want it there. And so now you'll see it's right there on top. And go to close up, or I want edges, that's the one that's on top, there we go. What's up, man? Tell Paul congrats. Oh, you can't hear me. Well, I'll just wave. And Paul. There you go. Brett Morris just joined. What's up? And EJ. Man. So yeah, Lance, this is pretty much how you would do it. And then like I just said with this color splitter here, you can do this nice little trick of getting the alpha out of this and using it as your blend color. And that way you don't have to mess with additive and trying to get the perfect blend color in here. You'll just get the alpha straight out of that. Could have done it in Notepad. I guess I could have done it in Notepad. That is true. But that's how you would add a label, especially if you don't have something like perfectly UV mapped. Then you can come in here, start using your texture tool and moving stuff around and rotating, adding that in there. And then we can get funky again like we just were with everything else. So now that we have this color split in there, let me go ahead and pull back out on this. Let's get another noise. Copy that there. And this time I'll use a composite just because it's fun to switch back and forth. And we'll put our alpha right. Oh, let me zoom back in so you can see our dots a little bit better. Get some noise in there. And we'll dirty up my kids a little bit. So let's do subtract. You'll see now we're subtracting from there. I think I'm going to make the noise really small, like 16. And it's probably a little bit too strong, so I'm going to do a ramp. And we'll just go ahead, pipe that in there. Pipe this in there. Change this to Alt. You'll see we're back to where we started, and we'll start getting some more contrast in here. I think I'm going to switch this around. Like so, just so we can get really holy. Let's do a quick bucket render. You know what? I wasn't even keeping track of that. It probably was rotating and doing that to all the textures, Lance. Yeah, as I look at these smudges, it does look like that. What's the best way to combat that? Ask me again tomorrow, Lance, when we're in Slack together, and I will give you a better answer. Because, yeah, since I had multiple textures in there already, it was definitely rotating and scaling those at the same time. And you shouldn't have to worry about that. Let me check this texture and see. Because, yeah, I didn't update that. Yeah, I know what the issue is. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, but what you would do is generate a new UV tag for this particular texture. So if you already have textures hooked up, you would want to generate a UV tag for what you already have. And just the way this is built, there's already UV tags on these, so it's kind of convoluted. But yeah, what you would do is generate a UV tag, bring it in and put it on the textures that you want already. So this will reference a UV tag. And then you would create a new UV tag for this particular texture. I think, I want to say around like January or February of this year, I did something like this, I think. But yeah, ask me tomorrow in Slack and I will get you a 100% definite answer on that. I'm like 95% certain what you want to do is, if you already have textures, generate a UV map for that, or if you already have a UV map, bring it into those textures, and then you can go ahead and start doing exactly what I just did. Generate a new UV map for that texture, and then it will just do that. Yeah. Yeah, Chad does have a tutorial on it on GSG. I can probably even find it. Let me see if I can find it. I'm not logged in to get you chat, but it is. I wish I could send it in chat for you. I'll get you the exact name as I look through. Yeah, it's called Multiple Labels and Stickers in Redshift. right here. But it's essentially the same thing. So for each one of these stickers, he would have had to have generated a new UV map for that. So the order of operations, I'm saying it might be a little bit backwards. You might generate a UV map first and then make your adjustments. It's been a little while. So what time is it? It's about 10 of, so I'm just going to go through the chat and see if I missed anything. So Brograph guys at dinner with Paul, saw that. And I'm going to try and translate this message from really early on, see what that means. Just means hello. Okay. Well, Nico, hello. Sorry I didn't translate that earlier. I'm just translating it now. Cool. Now that I've got a few minutes, since there aren't any questions, let me see if no, because this is a null, so it's not going to work. I was going to say try and do the UV trick, but I don't want to have to connect all this and deal with that. And yeah, if you have a model lance and it is properly, if I could speak properly, properly UV'd, it should be exactly like I was just saying. So, but yeah, so I think next week Dave is going to be back with Octane. I think that's the new goal, is that Dave is going to be alternating with either Octane modeling or like showing stuff in Espresso or different things while I have off weeks. So the next Redshift Live will be November 1st. And I think I had mentioned to Billy last time to possibly come on this week. I think I want to put it in the calendar that he comes back on, because he's been building these car shader materials that look really awesome. I was wondering if there's a way to do heat distortion type effect in RS. Like, so Nick, are you talking about like on metal? Like what happens to metal when there's heat distortion? Or are you talking about like actual heat distortion when you're looking at like a flame coming out of a jet and you get like that heat distortion, or like pavement with heat and the distortion that happens there? Like fire. That would be a great question for Billy, since he, yes, like fire. Okay. So Billy did this. Let me bring up his Instagram, and I think he may have tackled this with his pavement with heat. Okay. I've never done it, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. Let me see if his rocket video had the heat displacement. I don't really remember. Where is it? Here it is. So just watch this really quickly. It's moving so fast, I can't tell. All right, let me write this down for pavement heat. Distortion. We've got some time left, so maybe I can mess around with it right now, see what I can get. Off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure how we would go about that. Let me do a quick heat distortion. Do a quick Google and see what we can get. something like that. Heat waves. I almost think like you would have to have a plane, like an actual primitive plane, and distort it that way. Let's give it a shot. So I'm gonna put to a platonic. Yeah, that's exactly what I was just thinking. Billy, are you nickname? Are you Billy? You answer things like Billy would. So I'm guessing it's you, but you're not signed in on your account. So let's catch up. Put this on the plane here. Do glass. You wish. Well, that's okay. All right, so like roughness, we start to get that a little bit in there. Get an area light, bring this back. Something like that. And 2x2, 1. All right, so we've got that plane there. So I think what will probably be best is if we do like a noise. And I'm gonna go ahead and put that on the surface. Do like a turbulent noise. 8 in complexity. Something like that. Distort it a little bit. Let's do some distortion. Maybe too complex. All right, yeah, let's do that. And we'll put this in our reflection roughness. Hook this back up. Something like that. So if it was coming off the ground, you might have to do like some sort of VDB type deal. But you could probably get away. It's going to take some trickery, I think. You'd probably get away with a ramp in here. And let me get a composite. I'm going to hook up this ramp. And I want it to be white mostly there, and then fade up. Something like that. I think that's looking okay. Yeah. Okay, so we'll do a composite since we're just doing 2. This will be our base color, and that in there. I bet. So I want to subtract. Right? No, the other way. All right. Something like that. I think we're getting somewhere. So we'll put that in the roughness, and then our surface right there. And might need to adjust this up a little bit. We'll have our area light, a little bit more exposure on there. That's too much, 10. Something like that. Let's go ahead and 2.05. Too much. That's okay. 1.1, 0.5. It's getting close. But I think this is where you would probably start to go, and just hook a ramp into this too. Give me a little bit more control. There. I'll do Alt. Oh. So something like that, and you'd have to play with it some more. Maybe even put like some dispersion on it. Let's try that. Thin walled. No. And up here, I'm gonna go ahead and adjust this so it's always. Something like that. And then what you can do is either animate the noise. There's multiple ways to do that. You can use a time node. Or you can manually offset this if you wanted to. I don't think that's going to do it. Yeah. But yeah, you can hook up a time node and do that. You could also use the offsets in here and maybe something like that. Oh, is it only by integers? Really? I guess that's why people use the time node, because it's by integers. Yeah, I guess you would need need thickness to like really get it distorted. Like you can see that it's distorting a little bit. So if I bring down this, you can see there's like a little bit of distortion happening. Yeah, let me try a cube. And we'll make it like 150 by 2, 150, something like that. I don't know that made a huge difference. I think that's how you would start with something like this. Here's the reference that I had. Yeah, because this really looks like a roughness map. That in there looks like a roughness map, or like Vaseline on a lens almost. Tool size, do large. Like this here, this is pretty cool. It looks like they're using a heat map of some sort in here. I wonder if you could generate like a bunch of spheres and each one would be slightly different. And then you can use that as your roughness. So Yeah, that might work. If I get sphere and put it in a cloner. Something like that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And like, or even like multiple ones. So you see how we've got this rainbow of colors here. So if you have like a rainbow of colors and using like a multi-shader to drive this with different size spheres and different size distortions and like index of refractions and roughness, like very subtle variations. And just throw random on here, and uniform. I don't think we need this to be so big. We can have it like 50, maybe that. And what if we did like a grid array? One, maybe 3 is okay, and something like that. Like, I could see if you could figure out how to get these to all kind of merge together and smooth. Man, you could probably even, like, if you have R20, put them in a volume builder and then put that in a mesher, something like that. That starts to get like Donnie Darko goop level, especially with all the dispersion going on. Oh yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, I've got it written down. I will definitely think about it and the best way to achieve it. Like setting this to thin walled kind of does it because you get these like outlines in there. Like I wonder if, I mean, there's like, I could go down a whole rabbit hole right now. Put a noise on here and then Voronoi, start playing with that, and then have like animation on right there. Something like that even. Yeah, something. I will definitely think about it, Nick, and hopefully in 2 weeks I'll have an answer for you. And I'll check with Billy too and see if he wants to come back on and we can talk about his Gundam and if he did anything like that. Because I can't really tell from the Instagram post, but I feel like he's tackled this too. So we'll get you an answer for sure. We'll figure out a way, even if it is like manipulating something like this. But as for Shockwave, you probably could do something like this with a torus or like a couple different toruses and displacement and messing around that way. What's up, Casey? I hope you're eating some shrimp. Cool, Nick. Yeah, definitely. I'll be posting, so definitely tune in. So it's after 10 here. I'm just gonna scroll through the chat one more time, make sure I didn't miss anything. Like shrimp from KCV. Hope you're doing well, man. Let's see. All right, I think that's about it. So I'm going to wrap it up here for tonight. Thanks everybody for joining in. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in comments below. As you just saw with Nick's questioning and a couple other questions, that's what these streams are all about. So I love getting questions from you guys and coming up with topics. Questions also help me make tutorials. I haven't made tutorials in a while, just because I've covered so much. So I've mostly been doing live streams now, just to have live Q&A. But if there's something that really pops up kind of like this, then that leaves room for a tutorial. So definitely leave a comment below. Subscribe, of course. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can find me anywhere on social media as 531, generally spelled out F-I-V-E and then numeral 31. And Liam at 5-31.com is my email. Feel free to email me there as well. So like I was saying earlier, I think Matt or Dave, probably Dave, is coming on next week to do some Octane stuff and follow up with his holiday espresso stuff that he was doing last week. And then I'll be back in 2 weeks. So again, thanks so much for joining in. Casey, I'm sorry you have potato internet in Australia, but you've got awesome shrimp. So anyway, guys, I will talk to you soon. Have a good one. See ya.